See, mother's angle of vision. Angle of vision, yani ki Drishtikon. Mother had very different ways of looking at things. So today we will see how they were different. In which way? This we are reading from Swami Gambhiranandaji's book, Holy Mother Shri Sarada Devi. So Swami Gambhiranandaji's book, Holy Mother Shri Sarada Devi. Angle of vision. Radhu was now of marriageable age. Radhu was her niece, and so to perform her wedding ceremony, the mother left for Jairambati on 3rd of Jyeshta, that is 18th of May 1911, and reached Koalpara on the 5th. Koalpara had now come to occupy an important place in the life history of Holy Mother. Between the year 1909 and 1919, the mother rested here for some hours during all her travels between Jairambati and Calcutta. She used to say, "This is my parlor." The inmates of the monastery were wholeheartedly devoted to her and felt blessed if they could do the least service to her. This time, when the news of her coming reached them, they constructed a temporary enclosure for her with palm leaves round the bathing place of the Banerjee Ghat. This is the Pukur. They also tastefully decorated the new shrine room, enclosed its veranda with screens, cleaned the road, and covered it with cloth with flowers spread over. But the mother had no time to spare. She hurriedly bathed and finished her midday meal, and then, after a little rest, started for Jairambati with Radhu in the same palanquin. Before she bade farewell, she said tenderly to the inmates of the monastery, "Now, in these parts, you are my mainstay. I see that the Master has in fact made a seat for himself here. And for us all, too, a resting place has come into existence." When they all bowed down to her one by one, she touched their heads in benediction and said, "You all should go to Jairambati now and then, and in particular, you have all to go during Radhu's marriage. You will have to attend to all details of the arrangements there. In a few days, Swami Shardananda, Golapma, Yoginma, and one or two brahmacharis reached Jairambati via Koalpara. The marriage was fixed for 27th of Jyeshta, that is middle of June 1911. The bridegroom was Manmathanath Chatterjee, who belonged to the landlord family of Tejpur. The Chatterjees were richer than the Mukherjees of Jairambati. But Swami Shardananda, who placed the mother's happiness above everything else, spent money unquestionably for adoring Radhu in a way befitting a bride entering a landlord's family. And other arrangements for the celebrations were also made on a similar scale. The bridegroom's party took full advantage of their strong position to extract from Swami a considerable amount of dowry. But Kedarnath Datta of Koalpara, unable to restrain himself when unreasonable demands were being made, intervened off and on in the talk between the Swami and the bridegroom's party. And the mother disliked this kind of wrangling and ruffled temper just on the eve of a happy union, called away Kedar Babu. Radhu entered the marriage pandal, adored with gold and silver from head to foot. Uncle Prasanna performed the ceremonial handing over of her niece to Manmatha. She was then past her 11th year and Manmathanath was in his 15th. There was a feast on the next day. When the guests were returning home, the mother stood at the back door and inquired if they had had enough. And they heartily replied, "May the bride and the bridegroom live happily, mother." At the time of Radhu's going to her father in law's house, the mother gave her a big black box. At night, the master appeared to the mother to say, "So, you have given away 1,000 rupees that was in Radhu's box." The mother then remembered that she had that amount of cash in the box, but it had not been removed when the box was being handed over. Next day, she sent her devotee, Vibhushan Nath Ghosh, and a monk and got back to the money. Sorry, it is Vibhuti Bhushan Ghosh and a monk and got back the money. The mother spared no pains to see that the minutest detail of that auspicious ceremony was duly performed, and yet, in spite of all these domestic engagements, we get from the above incident an inkling of the level of detachment in which her mind soared forever. But lest the reader should interpret this as a case of ordinary forgetfulness, we show here another event which is more apt in this point of view. It was well known that the mother deeply loved Radhu, and hence it was as desirable for the devotees to see the girl enter a good family as it was for the mother. Accordingly, one well-wisher once suggested to the mother that since Master Mahashay had in his class many boys of well-to-do families, he could be asked to choose a suitable bridegroom. At this, the mother remarked, "Let a groom be hit upon, as he may, in the ordinary course of things. I will never ask anyone to fall into bondage of wedlock." Such was life of non-attachment, notwithstanding her being outwardly involved in all sorts of household duties, that it was comparable to a lotus leaf untouched by the water on which it floats. Yet none could accuse her of ever neglecting any task. Radhu's marriage at Tejpur was settled by a relative before the mother left for the south, and on seeing the horoscope of the pair, an astrologer expressed the fear that the girl might become a widow. Yet the mother did not override a decision taken by Radhu's well-wisher. Long after the marriage, when Manmatha sought initiation, she at first declined, saying that it would not give an mantra to any of her relations, and she yielded at last to his importunities. After making him a disciple, she remarked that though one should not interfere with divine dispensation, Radhu might, after all, escape her widowhood by the force of that initiation. A little over 2 months after Radhu's marriage, the Ramakrishna mission lost one of its luminaries. Swami Ramakrishna passed away at the Udbodhan in Calcutta on the 21st August 1911. When he felt that the end was near, he wanted to see the mother. But after full deliberation, the mother decided not to go. The tireless service that the Swami rendered to her in the south was still fresh in her mind. How could the mother bear the sight of passing away of such a devoted son? And if she came to such a small house at the Udbodhan with all her retinue, it would only add to the discomfort of the patient. Therefore, she sent back the messengers who had gone to Jairambati for escorting her to Calcutta. Yet, Swami Ramakrishna saw the mother near his sick bed and cried out, "Mother has come." Afterwards, the poet Girish Babu composed a song about the mother, taking the cue from Swami, and later was highly delighted to hear the song. Not long after, he entered his final beatitude. When the news reached Jairambati, the mother said sorrowfully, "My Shashi is gone, my backbone is broken." This song is in Bengali and it is called Pohalo Dukho Rajoni, which was composed by Girish Ghosh. When the devotees of Koalpara arrived at the mother's house with vegetables on the occasions of Jagadhatri worship that year, the mother said joyfully, "Greens and vegetables are not always available here, and hence one is put to a great trouble at times. But methink the Master will now provide everything through you." When the devotees started to return after the worship, the mother gave them a bundle of fried rice and other eatables that had been offered to the deity. From that time on, the devotees send vegetables twice or thrice every week whenever she happened to be at Jairambati. The economic condition of Koalpara ashram being bad, they could not engage anyone for carrying such loads, and hence, after finishing the daily duties, they procured the necessary vegetables from the ashram grate or from the market and then carried the load on their own shoulders. At Jairambati again, if they found the mother in need of any daily necessities such as salt, oil, spice, wheat, etc., which could be had from villages some miles away, they volunteered with all willingness to obtain those things and carry them on their head to her. When the devotees arrived, the mother would direct them to leave the things in their proper places. At last, they became so familiar with the arrangements there that they could do everything by themselves. When at last they took leave of her by touching her feet, the mother blessed them, saying, "May you acquire knowledge, may you get faith and devotion," and tied to their clothes some fried rice for a light repast on the way. In fact, the Koalpara ashram became, as it were, a part and parcel of her own household for these few years. It had not even been incorporated with the Ramakrishna Mutt at Belur so far. As it had been settled that the mother would go to Calcutta after Jagadhatri worship, Brahmachari Prakash had been sent by Swami Shardananda to take her there. The 8th of Agrahan, that is, about November 23rd, 1911, was fixed as the date for the journey. A couple of days earlier, Kedar Babu, later Swami Keshavananda, the head of the Koalpara ashram, came to Jairambati to make arrangements for the mother's stay at that place. The mother talked as she made betel rolls. When that part of the conversation was over, she said, "Listen, my boy, as you have built a house for the master and set up a resting place for us, I shall install the master there when I pass through the ashram this time. Keep everything ready. You will have to carry on worshipping, offering of cooked food, Vesper services, and all such functions regularly. What will you gain by the Swadeshi movement alone? The Master is the spring of all that we do or have. He is the ideal. Whatever you do, if you hold on to him, you will never go wrong." The ashram was then a hotbed of Swadeshi agitation, looms, spinning wheels, and political talks being more in evidence than meditation, japa, worship, and study. As a result, the police had a sharp eye on the inmates. Nothing daunted, the head of the center carried on with his bold program, and hence he could not accept without question all that the mother said. And yet he could not gather sufficient courage to contradict her openly. Therefore, he argued indirectly. But of a truth, Swamiji, that is Swami Vivekananda, wanted us very much to work for the country, and he laid the foundation of selfless work by inspiring the youth of the country. What a lot of work would he have done if he were alive? Carried away by the trend of his own thought, Kedar Babu unknowingly touched more than one chord in the mother's heart. The symphony that he aroused thereby was equally sweet and full, and yet repleted with deep spiritual meaning. Hardly had he finished when the mother intervened. Oh, my dear, if Naren, that is Vivekananda, were there today, would the company let him alone? They would lock him up in a jail. I couldn't have borne the sight of that. Naren was like an unsheathed sword. After his return from the foreign countries, he said, "By your grace, mother, I did not have to cross the ocean by jumping in this age, but went to those parts in their own ships, and there too I noticed how great is the glory of the Master. What a number of good people and great people heard about him and accepted this idea about me with astonishing eagerness. They too are my children. Don't you agree?" This is what the mother is saying. Kedar found no answer and kept silent. His first mistake was to support his own course of action by suggesting a false analogy with Swami Vivekananda. And his second error consisted in tending to convert his patriotism into a kind of dislike for the foreigners. By the mother's words, he stood corrected, and it also dawned on him that selfless work cannot be properly carried on unless religion is accepted as its base. While on this topic, we will see how mother's vision is. After the completion of her new house in Jairambati in 1917, the mother was living in it at the time of the Durga Puja worship. On that occasion, she sent a brahmachari to purchase some clothes to be presented to her nephews and nieces. He belonged to the Koalpara ashram and had imbibed a liking for country made things, and so he purchased clothes made by the Indian mills, which were coarse and had no attractive borders. Naturally, the girls did not like them. They wanted finer cloth in exchange. The brahmachari protested in disgust. Well, those are foreign clothes, so think that one can purchase them. The mother was there sitting in a corner. She heard everything and said with a smile, "My boy, they, that is the foreigners, too are my children. I have to carry on with all. Can I afford to be one sided? Bring for them the clothes just as they want." And yet, it was against her nature to do violence to anyone's feelings, and hence she never again sent this brahmachari for purchasing foreign clothes. And if the need arose, she asked someone else to do so. But liberal outlook and convenience at violence was as poles apart. At the news of the police ill-treating towards Sindhubala and others, the mother, though noted for her natural suavity, could hardly restrain her indignation. The wife and a sister of Devin Babu of the village, Jutha Bihari, in Bankura, had the same name, Siddhubala. The sister was then in the family way, under suspicion of complicity in subversive activities. The police wanted to arrest one of the Siddhubalas, but owing to identity of names, they first took into custody the sister who was in her husband's village, Sabajpur, and then they arrested the wife also. The news of these two arrests traveled from mouth to mouth till Uncle Kali came in a very agitated mood and reported to the mother that the police had treated the woman inhumanly and made them walk the whole way, and that even when the villagers had protested and suggested that some transport should be arranged, the police had turned a deaf ear. At this cruel news, the mother cried in surprise, "What do you say?" And her whole frame shook. So she was angry with this also. Then, red with indignation, she said, "We are seeing that she is angered too. Is this an order of the company or an overzealous act on the part of the police? We never heard of such inhuman treatment towards innocent women in the reign of Queen Victoria. If this is an order from the company, then it will be doomed soon. Was there no man there who could give them some slaps and snatch away the girls?" A little while after, when Uncle Kali communicated to her the news of their release, she was somewhat pacified and said, "If I had not heard this news, I would have had no sleep at all." On another occasion, the mother was at Kualpara. The First World War, 1914 to 1918, was raging. The devotee Prabodh Chandra Chatterjee came and made his obeisance to the mother, who inquired about his health and general welfare and then asked, "Well, my dear, what's the news of the war? What a tremendous sacrifice of lives has been there. What a machine of killing have they invented. What a lot of instruments there are nowadays. Telegraph, etc. See, for instance, how Rash Bihari, that is Swami Arupananda, started from Calcutta yesterday and arrived here today. How we toiled and trudged on to reach Dakshineshwar in those days." Encouraged by this, Prabodh Babu enthusiastically eulogized the achievements of science and said, "The British government has increased the general welfare in our country." The mother heard the whole speech and then remarked, "But my son, there is now in our country a greater want of food and clothing. Formerly, there was no such paucity of food. Let us now pass on another occasion. There was a great scarcity of cloth all around. The women could not come out of their houses for want of clothes to cover their bodies. And news of suicides for this reason was being frequently published in the daily papers. One day, as somebody mentioned to the mother about some of these sad events, she was so much moved. At first, tears trickled down her cheeks, and at last, no longer able to check her emotions, she cried out in agony, "When indeed will they, the English, go? When will they?" When she cooled down a little, she said with regret, "In those days, there were spinning wheels in every house. Cotton was cultivated in the fields. All span and wove their own clothes. There was no dearth of cloth. But the company came and destroyed it all. The company promised ease. One could have 4 pieces of cloth for a rupee and one more in the bargain. All became babus, that is, easy loving. The spinning wheel went out of vogue, and now have all the babus become kabu? That is, are they in a tight corner now? We have to remember that the non-cooperation movement of Mahatma Gandhi, with its concomitant, the revival of the spinning wheel, was yet to come. The mother heart was moved by the country's miseries. At times her eyes were blood red at the iniquities of the foreign exploitators, or shed profuse tears at their heartless oppression. But as an ultimate remedy to all the sorrows, she clung to the Master and asked others also to do so. In fact, all her thoughts and deeds centered on Sri Ramakrishna. Those were the days of the Swadeshi movement. So when one patriot asked her, Mother, will not the trials and tribulations of this country ever end? The mother replied, the master had come for that very purpose. Accordingly, though she was attracted by the practical enthusiasm of the devotees of Koalpara, she decided the master should be installed in the ashram as its presiding deity, for otherwise the workers would be soon swept off their moorings. That was why she wanted to initiate the master's worship there on her way to Calcutta. That was the middle of November, when it is cold in the morning, but as the mother had to perform the master's worship at Kualpara, she started early by Palanquin. And Lakshmi Didi, Maku, Radhu, and Radhu's husband Manmatha followed her in separate palanquins, while the mad aunt Nalini Devi, Bhudevi, and others travelled by bullock carts. And there was Brahmachari Prakash as the manager of the party. The Kualpara devotees made adequate arrangements for the master's worship. The mother bathed after arriving there, and then, placing on the altar the master's photograph and by its side her own, she worshipped them duly. Brahmachari Kishore, afterwards Swami Parameshwarananda, performed the Homa at her bidding. When the installation of the master was over, all took prasad. After this, and before the midday meal, the mother walked with her niece Lakshmi and Nalini to Kedar's house at a little distance. When Brahmachari Prakash came to know of this, he became annoyed and said to the local devotees, "You know nothing of the mother's position and prestige. Why did you make her walk without my knowledge? Anyway, you should bring her back in a palanquin." But not waiting for his order to be executed, he went with a palanquin and 2 ashram inmates to bring her. They met the mother on the way, and Brahmachari Prakash requested her to get into the palanquin, which she did without a murmur. But on arriving at the ashram, she reproached him, saying, "This is our rural resort." So, this is our rural resort. Kualpara is my parlor. These are all my own boys. I want to be a little free in my movement so long as I am here. When I come to Calcutta, I heave a sigh of relief. There you keep me shut up in a cage. I am away under restraint. If here too I have to toe the line, well, I shan't be able to do so. You may inform Sharat, that is Swami Shardananda, accordingly. Then the brahmachari begged her pardon, explaining that in his enthusiasm to see that there was no lack of attention on his part, he had been guilty of unwittingly curtailing her liberty. It was planned that the journey should be resumed after 6 o'clock in the evening, and the food to be taken on the way should be made ready by then. But in spite of their best efforts, the ashrama people could not finish their work in time. As this irritated the brahmachari, they suggested that the Calcutta party might start according to the schedule, and that they would somewhat and somehow overtake them with the food on the way. The mother, who heard it all, reprimanded the brahmachari thus: "What makes you lose your balance and take them to task like that? This is a village atmosphere. Can everything be got ready by the clock as in Calcutta? Don't you notice how diligent the boys have been working with all through the morning? Whatever you may say, there will be no moving out of here before finishing our meals." Accordingly, all had to wait and start for Vishnupur after food at 8 o'clock in 8 bullock carts. So we see here how the mother was so different in her outlook and everything. So we need to understand that mother always had a vision beyond our understanding. So to follow her teachings is so important. Thank you so much for being with us. Namaskar. We'll soon get back to you. Do subscribe to our channel and stay tuned. Namaskar once again.